Well, with all the crazy cold weather we were having the last week or so, I mean, it was, minus 35, minus 40. That was the temperature, not the wind chill. So we spent a lot of time indoors, not really doing a lot of book hunting or trips out to the country or anything. So, which was not bad, because a lady brought a Bible in that she wanted to have repaired, and it was a stack of papers. So I needed to get it kind of put back together, add some end papers, front and back, and she wanted to put some boards on it so that it would be a hardcover book. So I said yes when we got started on that. So I'm going to show you where we're at with it, and take you through the next few steps. So this is the actual text block of the Bible. So got it kind of put back together. It's all nice and solid. We've got the spine fixed up to this point. We'll do a little bit more with that as we move forward. So these are the pages that I've added at the request of the client. And you'll notice on these corners that they're, well, you can see that over the years these little corners, they get curled up and they take their own shape. So I've been spending a little time getting the paper that I've added to try and agree with the existing shape here, because as I've said many times before, the book is going to do what it wants to do, especially after many years of use and so on and so forth. So yeah, just about there with that. The text block is all really nice and good. Set that over there. So basically what I'm doing here is a case binding. What we'll do, last night I glued up all the pieces, so I made 2 new boards. Well, here, let's just keep doing this. Get the tins out, put those away. A little bit of wax paper there to make sure that none of the glue gets stuck to anything. So I'll put that over there. What's my stack of stuff? So basically, so I make this board, I make this board, the spine piece rather, and then this board, and the text block will fit in right along here, and then these will fold up, and we'll have our case binding for it. Let's see, here's the big part coming up. I'm going to see if this and these, after some very careful measuring, are an exact fit for that text block. So let's try that out. All right, here is our moment of truth. This is always the hardest part, because if you're off by, not too much, it doesn't fit very nicely. So here we go. Text block fits in here on the spine piece, and fold this board up. Fold this board up, and look at that. It actually fits. Woohoo! I'm very happy. Right along here, left a little bit of a gap in there, and once we cover this with the book cloth, that will leave us a nice little groove in there. It'll look really sharp. Well, that's the theory anyway. You can notice that there's an awful lot of space here on the foredge. Those are always left long until later on in the process, and then we'll come along and we'll trim a bit of that off so that it kind of matches up with the squares on the top and bottom, which are right there. So this little bit visible here, the white part, top of the board, that is called the square. And that is the piece that, and you do it by eye, you just kind of look at the book, the text block, the boards, how much looks nice. You decide and you mark it, and that's where we will bind this cover to the text block, leaving that exposed. And then once all that's done, like I say, we'll come along and trim up the four edges. Four edges are always just a little bit longer. The square on the four edges is always just a little bit longer than the square on the top and bottom edges. And really it's just kind of an aesthetic thing. So this is an old, these are old recycled boards that I'm using on here. And I wanted to make sure before that, sorry if that radio is interfering here. So I did a little test gluing of, this is the paper that we're going to use. So I did a little test just to make sure that it was going to stick and it looked okay of the cloth over top of this material, and it did. It looks nice. Very close though, isn't it? But the client really wanted this color, so that's what we'll go with. One of the things we want to make sure that we get that everything is square as best as we possibly can make it, and just folding that up, looking down. That's pretty darn good. There's one little spot there, but I think we can adjust that when we apply the book cloth. Also, I like all of the edges nice, smooth, and I just take my little sanding block, and I have like 120 on here. It's very, very fine, and I just give it a little rub very gently. Get that all set up like that. Actually going to do a little bit on this. Get at it on this edge. Although we're going to trim that, so we won't worry too much about it. Okay, so let's set our block in here. So we already have a line here that tells us that is our square. Gotta make sure this is square. So I'm going to put that, match it up to our square on that top edge right there. Make sure the bottom, I gotta get that back there. Okay. Don't like the way that's looking, so I'm just gonna do this. Okay. On that edge. Just bump that up a hair up there. Is that square? Let's just see. This is like my dad's. It's a vintage. Might even been his dad's. Not entirely sure. Okay, so I just look square back here. Yeah, that's all square. We like square in bookbinding. Okay, so I'm just going to measure that. These are invaluable. And this is an invaluable tool for a bookbinder. You cannot be a bookbinder and not own a couple of pairs of calipers, like small ones and then the long ones as well. Well, not that long, but you know what I mean. Okay, so let's tighten that up, and I'm going to measure the square here on that line, and that's a little much, I think. So I'm going to just mark, there we go. Put a little light line there. And we're going to measure that. And there we go. So I know this edge, I cut the square Like these boards are square when I start, so that when I'm doing these measurements, everything lines up. Okay, so I have that line. I know I'm going to measure from there to there. Okay, we'll just draw that in there. And that is where I am going to cut. Let's see, can you... So here we go. So here's the line that I've marked on here, and I will duplicate that on the other side, and away we go. Alrighty, so I'm all set up. I don't have a board shear, you know, the great big arm blade on it. I have a smaller one, not particularly effective for doing nice clean cuts on a piece of board. And you know, you want that nice and straight and clean when you cut it. So I use the old utility knife in my heavy-duty metal ruler. Some patience, a little elbow grease, and some weights just to kind of keep everything in place. And then I just make my cuts. So let us begin. Now I've got to make sure that I'm on the right line. I am, because you hate to make a mistake at this point, because no going back. So here we go. So there will be a number of these. Ugh. Okay, this is going to take a few minutes, so I'll keep going and be right back. All right, just a couple more to go, and we should be there. Again, patience, patience, patience. There we go. And, oh, aha. So let's just see how we did. If everything did stay square on our foredge, and yeah, it's pretty darn good. We're off by like a little bit of a 1/16 in there, but it's so little that it would look worse if we tried just to take 1/16 of an inch off from here down. And when we apply the book cloth and so forth, you won't even know it's there. Okay, so that's how we cut off our little piece. Now our foredge should be perfect and match up with our top and bottom square. And away we go. I'll do the other side. Okay, there we go. We have our case binding all trimmed up. Now the only thing left to do is to apply the book cloth to the outside. Get that all attached very nicely, smoothly, no crinkles or wrinkles. And then we will put the text block in. Okay, that's the next step. Well, the book cloth is all glued onto the boards, and it looks like it went rather well. But before we move on to the very next step involved, I don't know if you noticed or not that when I glued the boards, that this red stuff was gone. And I mentioned that I had done a test gluing on this material with the book cloth and the PVA, and it seemed like it had turned out rather well. But you know what? A day or two later, I just luckily picked that piece up and had another look at it, and all the book cloth had lifted off the surface of this red material, which is, you know, it's kind of that shiny, fake leatherette look. I'm sure glad I did. So I removed that. I took it off the boards, gave them a little sanding, and it stuck way, way better. Thank goodness I luckily noticed that. Okay, we are going to move on to the next step here with the case binding. We have the top and bottom edges glued. Now we will do the four edges. So we're just going to apply our 50-50 Again, you want to be generous enough that we have a very good bonding with the board. Oh, goodness me. Remember what I said earlier about don't get it everywhere? Yeah, well, should have listened. So I'm going to work this corner. Remember where we snipped? It's called fixing the corner. So it's a nice tight joint. We want to pull this well over so it's snug fit right on the foredge. Of course, we're going to rub that really well too. I should have an assistant younger than me that can do all of this rubbing and bone foldering, because you have to put a little effort into it or it doesn't really work very well. Hello. I'm at the back here if you need me. Oops. Okay, we'll do that edge, get rid of that glue. Pardon me? Yes.
All right. Isn't that cool? I know.
I'm just fixing a Bible for a woman.
Oh, lovely. Yeah. Okay, next we'll get we're gonna just have a quick peek, make sure everything is where we want it. these are for the groove. I'm just going to make those shorter. Should have had these cut beforehand, but I didn't. That's not long enough. Okay, I'm going to put these under some weights so that we get a really good tight bond. Okay, show you how it turns out. The next step is to trim 3/4 of an inch off of this all the way around, and I have this handy dandy homemade tool that is 3/4 of an inch around, and so we just place it on here like this. Make sure that it's nice and snug. And we'll just do a nice, slow, even cut that does not include my thumb. Do that one more time. Oh, very close. Get that over there. You know what? I'm going to do this way first. No use wasting. You never know. Might be able to use this little strip. Doubt it, but I'm frugal. Not quite. I'm just going to do that. Off it comes. Do the 4 edges. There we go. Okay. So next we are going to do a thing called fixing the corners. Excuse me, I need my better scissors. These are like awesome scissors. They cost a small fortune, but they're, you know, way better than Okay, so what we want to do here is I want to take our scrap material and put it over there. So these 3/4 inch edges are all going to fold over. So so we just kind of put a little crease along this edge because we want, you know, we want it nice and tight and snug and use our trusty bone folder just to do that. And like that. Do all 4 edges. One more. And once we have these creased like this, we are going to fix the corners, because when you fold it over, we don't want it doubled. So we take that corner like that, make sure it's nice and snug, pinch it up. Can you see? So it's pinched up nice and snug. There we go. And we'll take our scissors and we'll do a nice flat cut on there, so that when we glue them, it's a nice seam on the corner. Oh yeah, let's see if I can get this one a little tighter. Oh yeah, there we go. And when it's wet with the glue, it's all good. Okay, I'm gonna finish snipping these corners up and I'll be right back.
Good morning. We let our case binding dry overnight after we glued down our four edges and the top and bottom edges. So let's have a peek, see how that turned out, and we'll move on to the next step. Here we are. I put them under some light weights, and we did all both four edges, top and bottom edge. And just a note, I don't know if you're ever going to try this at home or not, but remember we marked on the board our squares. So on the bottom, top, both four edges. After you apply the cloth, that covers that mark, right? So you have to make sure you save that measurement on your calipers, so you can just come, which I've already done, remark that, because we really need those to when we apply the text block. Also, the other thing I do is I save a little piece from when we fix the corners, just in case. And like on this one, I'm gonna just fix that up a little bit, because they weren't quite as tight and snug as I wanted them to be. Okay, so what we do now is, with our text block, we have our tab or our hinge that's going to attach to the board. I have inserted a piece of wax paper here between the paper and the hinge itself, because we don't want any of that glue getting onto the those papers that we put in. And I'm just going to cover the wax paper right now with this waste paper, because we're going to apply the glue here, and then we're going to, well, I'll show you here in just one second. Okay. Okay, we are ready. We're going to glue up the outside. So mark these inside, mark the head, the tail, outside. So just let me check my notes. Glue up the boards on paper on the outside. So what we do is we apply the glue to this side, and then we will take these, place it down on top of the book cloth that we've trimmed up and got ready, and then we just bone folder it all into place. Okay, so let's put some glue on. We've got our trusty PEA 50-50 mix here. Not a good start. We're just going to clean that up a little bit. This glue likes to get everywhere, and you don't want to get it everywhere. So here we go. And you want to be generous with your glue, because you want everything to stick just so, right? So, and the reason I use 50-50 is that PVA, pure PVA, dries very quickly. It doesn't give you a chance to kind of, play around and adjust
all that much. And it can cause errors and, putting things where they don't quite exactly want to go. So, of course, you want to avoid that at all costs. Still do have to work relatively quickly with this material. And of course, wheat paste, you can use that forever. Just keep it, if it starts drying up on you too much, you just squirt a little bit of water on it and it's like right back to very pliable. One of the characteristics, though, of PVA 50/50 is that it is more or less a permanent fixture, or fixative, I guess. Once you glue something with it, that's pretty much it. If you have to repair, remove, replace, it's really difficult and doesn't usually turn out well. So you just have to be considerate about when and where you use it. I don't like this side very much. It's not getting in there very good. Okay. Of course, you don't want to use too much. Just like porridge, it just has to be so. Okay, we're going to try that. You're going to take this piece, set it over here carefully, get our clean, make sure that this is face down, right? Just look for my marks that I made. Excellent, there they are. I'm just gonna lay a little something on there to help keep things where they want to be. Oh, how about you? You will work. Okay, move that out of the way. Get this square in front of me. Get the light up here a little better. Okay. Let me look. So there's my marks, okay? So here we go. We are ready. I'm gonna put that there like that. Over here, push it up a little bit. And I want to make sure that this is, not stretched beyond shape, but make sure that it is square the way we cut it, and expect that it will be to fit onto, or have the text block fit onto it. Okay. Okay, I just gotta flip this over a little bit. Oh, how's that? Hopefully that's all close enough. And now we're going to do this for a while. I need a bigger piece of that. Just so happens I have a whole box full of it. Okay. So here we go. So we bone folded the heck out of this for the next, I don't know, until we're happy. It could be 10 minutes, could be 15 minutes. Obviously, this is a very important part of the process because you want your book cloth to stick to your boards. you don't have much of a book. Okay, we want to get down in our groove. Oh yeah, sounds like a Motown song. Okay, so tell you what, I'm going to keep doing this for a while because, you know, who wants to watch this for 15 minutes?
You know what? We're just going to fix those corners right now before we go any further attaching the text block, because it'd be much easier now when everything's flat. There's no text block in the way. So let's do that before we move on to our next step. So all those little pieces that I saved, this is what I'm going to use them for. So I'm just going to cut a nice little piece, little triangle. And I'm just going to glue it on that corner like that. So, I'll get some of my, oh, come here. Some of my 50/50 over here. I'll glue up this piece. And I'm going to put a little bit right in that crack. Not much. Okay, and I'm going to set that there like that. Clean all of that glue off of there. Make sure that is placed exactly where we want it. Okay. Dang you. I'm going to start swearing. Just give it. Nothing a bone folder. Nothing that a bone folder won't fix. That piece is being a little ornery, so I'm just gonna, you'll do. I'm just gonna stick a weight on that for a couple of minutes. Okay, and then I'll take the rest of these pieces and we'll do the other three corners and then carry on. Well, just to recap a little bit of what we've done so far. We've got the text block all sorted out with the new end papers inserted, and they turned out well, look really nice. We had the two boards made, we had the spine piece made, we attached all of those together, they fit, luckily for us. We've glued on the book cloth to the boards and spine piece, and as you just saw, we have finished up the edges. And while we let those dry, we're going to bring this episode to a close. And we'll see in the second episode the next steps and hopefully a beautifully finished book. So thank you very much for watching this episode of Bailey the Bookman. Stay tuned for part 2 of the case binding project on the Bible.